Hey y'all, how are you? Welcome to Southern Sober and Sassy. Thanks for joining us today. And today I was insightful after listening to Joyce Myers this morning when she talked about approval addiction. She actually wrote a book. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you if you ever want to buy it. It's life changing, game changing, relationship changing, but it's overcoming your need to please everyone. So, thank you for being here. I've struggled with that in my own recovery, and I made notes, and I'd like to, you know, approval addiction. The theme for this would be when your self worth depends on other people's opinions, you'll abandon yourself just to avoid the rejection. And that literally is the heartbeat of this book, right?
Say that again.
When your self worth depends on other people's opinions, you'll abandon yourself just to avoid rejection. When you have been rejected in life so many, like time after time after time again, number one, your picker in relationships and friendships is probably needs to be on the mend, right? So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you are continuing to have these relationships that lead to rejection and abandonment, the common denominator may be you, right? So therein lies approval addiction help, and we offer that. So approval addiction is actually a real addiction. We can just add it to the stack of addictions. And Emotions Anonymous is a great platform for that. Step number one with Emotions Anonymous is admitting I'm powerless over my emotions. So, what happens? I'll ask you this, Christy. What do you think happens when approval becomes emotional oxygen?
I exhaust myself. I spend my entire day and my entire life trying to fix other people, trying to make things right, and trying to make them happy. And I end up empty. And for me, I ended up at the liquor store and the dope man's house. But um, you know, why do I do that? A people pleaser. The definition of a people pleaser is if you are not pleased with me, then that means that I am not good enough. And if you are displeased with me, that means that you are going to leave me. And if you are displeased with me, then that means that I'm defective. And my dad left us at the age of 12 and completely 100% abandoned us. And it stamped me with you are not good enough. And if you were good enough, I would stay. So it stamped me for the rest of my life with an identity crisis of I'm not good enough. So if I wanted to keep people in my life, I had to make sure that they were pleased. And I absolutely exhausted myself with that obsession. And I crashed and burned. Emotionally, I crashed and burned.
Yeah, people pleasing oftentimes originates in our childhood, um, and it talks about rejection, emotional wounds, abuse, criticism, or growing up feeling not enough. Just like what you said, because children who become good to survive chaos, walking on eggshells, becoming hyper vigilant to our mood, to moods around us, not our mood, because we discard our moods, right? We just discard it and look at everybody else's moods, and the fear of disappointing people, because if I disappoint you, you'll leave me. I can understand and empathize about, having a parent that leaves. That happened when, oh gosh, I wasn't even 5 yet. And, so I understand that. I do. I understand that. And then finding out the dad who raised me was not my dad at 11 years old. And that just opened up for, I'm going to tell you, an opportunity, for me to feel like I walked on eggshells, to, that I overcompensated or overfunctioned for a long time because I was fearful of being neglected and rejected. Not neglected, but rejected. People pleasers will find themselves overcommitting, avoiding conflict, saying yes when they mean no, feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions. And I lost my identity because for so long I identified with a people pleaser, even a few years ago. And the way the recovery ties in, Christy, is because it leads to resentment, burnout, relapse triggers, emotional suppression, and anxiety, which are all real. They're real. And, how many people would you say in recovery are sober but still emotionally are imprisoned by other people's opinions?
A lot. It has taken me a very long time to not people please. I mean, all of that you just described. Awareness is half the battle. So you just made me and them aware of what we are doing, and we cannot get better. We cannot have this solution without identifying the problem. And everything that Amy just read off that list is the problem. And it's like, okay. I'm squarely confronted with denying that, saying, oh no, that's not me, or I'm not that bad. Or I can say, yes, that is me, and I want to get better. And when I say, yes, that is me, I want to get better, then I start to move into the solution. And for me, I always look at opposites. The opposite of rejected is accepted. And first of all, I had to change my behavior because my behavior was so destructive that people did not want to be around me. They wanted to leave me. I was not enjoyable to be around. And so they left me and wanted to be away from me to protect themselves, which is a very healthy thing to do. So I had to squarely look at the behavior that I was putting out, that if I don't want people to leave me, then I had to look at, why do they want to leave me? And I have to go back to that list of what Amy just described and say, okay, what's the opposite of that list? What can I do better? I can be a better listener. I can be kind instead of angry. I can be unselfish instead of selfish. And when I started to do that and I started to look at my own behavior, then people did enjoy me more, and they were more accepting of me, and they weren't afraid of me. And I often say people are either moving towards you or away from you. Pay attention. If people are moving away from me, it's because of what I'm putting out. And if people are moving towards me, it means that I'm kind and I'm loving and I'm compassionate and I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to not judge. And I end up with people that are accepting of my assets, not running from my defects. And last but not least would be the higher power, God part of it. You start to bring the whole higher power God thing into it, and God loves me, cracked pot and all. But God is also very concerned with my character, and I had to learn to act half right and to treat people with respect And anyway, that took a hot minute. But where I'm at now in my recovery, as a result of doing a lot of that work, a lot of work, I am okay whether you are displeased with me or not. Because I've gotten to a place in my life that I finally like who I am. And I'm a beautiful, wonderful cracked pot now. And I'm okay with who I am. And I understand that, I understand what codependency is. And I understand that you can't satisfy the unsatisfiable, and that I don't let other people's problems become my problems anymore. And my happiness is not dependent upon people, places, and things. Happiness is an inside job. And does it hurt when people leave me now? Yes, but I have also surrounded myself with people that I enjoy and they enjoy me. And I now know that if they were to leave, that there's a spiritual meaning behind it, and that God has moved them for a reason, and that it's okay, and that I don't have to look at everything negatively. I can look at things positively now. So
Right.
that was a mouthful.
Yeah, but you just stated no. Mature recovery means learning that someone being unhappy with you does not mean you're bad.
Right.
And a theme, you cannot heal while constantly abandoning yourself. You've got to learn how to say no. You've got to learn to be okay disappointing people. You've got to learn how to get over the boundary guilt. You've got to learn how to detach with love. And you've got to allow, this is a big thing, you've got to allow other people to have their own reactions. Also, our worth is not earned through performance, perfection, fixing people, or being needed. In recovery, we don't say, I'll be enough when. We don't achieve our sobriety for others to applaud. We don't need that recognition and validation from a lot of outside people. And we don't rescue others to feel valuable. What if your value never depended on your performance in the first place? What if our value never depended on our performance? I said this for a long time. I said, I won the Oscar out of all the children in the family. I had so many Oscars on my parents' mantle. I won the awards for manipulation. Top dog, honey. I had them all up there. None of them had any. There was no room if they did, because I won it all. I took on the manipulation, the people pleasing, the active addiction, the active alcoholic, the active shitty mom, the active shitty daughter, the active shitty sibling. I took it all, and but that fear of rejection, do you know that, and I didn't realize this after reading this book, but the fear of rejection makes people manipulatable.
Mm-hmm.
Approval addicts will tolerate mistreatment, they'll stay too long, they'll silence themselves, they'll become controlled by others' moods. It's like, I'm taking your temperature, Christy, to see how I'm feeling today.
Mm-hmm.
And which also leads to toxic relationships, enabling people, trauma bonds, and family dysfunction. But there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, especially when we talk. There's always a solution. And freedom inside, because it's an inside job. We can't go Botox the manipulation out of us, Christy. I wish we could, honey. But we can't. Freedom comes from our own work and authenticity. One of the strongest messages is healing begins when people stop performing and start becoming honest. Authenticity and recovery. We take down the mask. We let go of the shame. We start being vulnerable. And who are you when nobody is clapping? Not watching. Who are you when nobody is clapping?
That's good.
I know, girl. I loved it. I was like doing all this work on this book, doing summaries. Who are you when nobody is clapping? I just experienced that. Well, my 1 star. I think, though, some questions that we want you to ask yourself. Have you ever confused being needed with being loved? Did your childhood teach you to earn love? Yeah. What happens when someone disapproves of you? Are you helping people or trying to control how they see you? How much of your anxiety comes from trying to manage other people's opinions? Have you abandoned yourself trying to keep others comfortable? And can you tolerate disappointing people? You have to remember that approval addiction is abandoning yourself for acceptance. People pleasing can often be self-rejection wearing a smile. But when we're learning to live our life in recovery, we're going to learn how to actually survive the disapproval. You can't heal by shape-shifting everybody else around you, Christy.
Well, I also have to realize that, so much of recovery is separating two people. I was so codependent that we were just this big ball of problems. It was their problems and my problems, and it was just this huge dysfunctional ball of problems. And so much of recovery is someone, a rational outsider, a neutral person coming into the picture and saying, okay, we are going to separate each one of y'all, and you are over here with your problems, and you are over here with your problems. It is your responsibility to fix yours, and it's your responsibility to fix yours. Then they get better and I get better, and then we can come back together and have a healthy relationship instead of them trying to fix my problems and me trying to fix their problems, because it's all just this learned behavior of I my people pleasing has taught other people that they have to people please as well. So it's just this big ball. Anyway, one of the things that you said on that list is, what about now? What about now when there are people in my life are that are distant? I can look at that in a negative way or I can look at it in a positive way. And I can reach out to them and say, "Hey, I love you. I'd love to have lunch," or and they don't reply. Or, "Hey, I'd love to see you. Just following up. I'd love to have lunch," and they don't reply. Or third time around, do the same thing and they say no. You know, I have to know that I am okay whether they are with me or not with me, and that there has got to be a stopping point, and that stopping point is beautiful things don't beg. I'm not going to beg you to eat lunch with me. I will ask you, but I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to beg my husband to love me. I'm not going to beg my children to reply to me. I am not going to beg an addict or an alcoholic to keep going to treatment. Keep going. I'm not going to beg. Beautiful things don't beg. And when you do the work and you stand there and you have that self-worth that you have worked so hard for, you will look at it differently and you will ask instead of beg. Where I used to beg, I ask now. And then I let it go.
I think too, with recovering people pleasers and recovering codependence, is I love what you said. I reached out 3 times, and then it's like, you know what? I'm okay. I've done
Yep.
what I needed to do. I tried, I made an effort. And even in relationships, you ask and you ask and you ask, and then finally you're like, I'm not asking anymore. and I'm going to take care of me, because what happens is we build up a resentment to our asking. And it's like, I think God tells us, sis, why are you getting mad at them?
Well, and something else too is people pleaser is it's all about me. It's all about me, 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 me. And it's now that I'm in recovery, fast forward, and we've gotten better. When I ask and ask and ask 3 times, now that I'm in a healthier place, maybe it's not about me. Heaven forbid it not be about me. Maybe she's got a lot going on in her life. Maybe she's on vacation and didn't have service, or maybe she's been sick and she hasn't replied to anyone. Maybe her dog died and she's just in mourning. Whatever. Heaven forbid I step outside of myself and into that other person's life and say, "Maybe they might have a lot going on." A people pleaser defaults to, I've done something wrong. Total bullshit.
Yeah.
Total bullshit.
And when you haven't done anything wrong.
I haven't done anything wrong.
Just, they
Except, you want to go eat? There's not doing anything wrong with that.
Right. And then they finally, and then you've built up this delusional thinking.
Yeah.
We've built in our head. That's why I always talk even about Byron Katie and then the Think It, Ink It journal. We've got to write out what we're thinking, because even after years of recovery, we all have a brain that does not hint, our brain is not protected from delusional thinking.
No.
And an alcoholic's brain, even when we're sober, let me tell you, there's many squirrels that live up there.
Oh yeah, and the codependent person who doesn't even have addiction issues or alcohol issues. We sit there and start conjuring up a cockamamie story in our head.
Yeah.
Of what I did and what's wrong and blah 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 blah. It's imaginary. It's not real. It's not real. And it is like, whoa, man, I really have to be mature. And you nailed it on the head, that there comes a point in time that you be mature, emotionally mature, and say, I'm a 57-year-old adult. Christy, stop it. Stay in today. You haven't done anything wrong. Go eat by yourself, or go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and take it to the beach.
Go eat a Crustable.
Yeah.
I love people.
Yeah, go eat a Crustable. If you're suffering from people pleasing, just go eat a Crustable, okay?
Go eat the grape jellies are the best.
Yeah.
The grape jellies are the best, especially out of the freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the easy answer.
Yeah, but like Christy said, this is not just about, so, whether you're struggling with substances or not, or an addiction, we all everyone, because we're all humans. 4 out of 4 people are dysfunctional, by the way. We all have dysfunction. That does not make us any more or less than someone else. But with approval addiction, it says, which I thought was very interesting, a lot of times people in recovery is not about drugs and alcohol. Recovery is a lifestyle change. It's not just about the people, places, and things. It's about mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and financial. If you or someone else struggle with codependency, perfectionism, people pleasing, toxic relationships, relapse, fear of rejection, social media validation, and even burnout in helpers and caregivers, this book is for you. And we'd like you to like this episode, and we'd ask you to share it too with your friends and family.
Yep.
And we're here. But yes, go buy the book. Go do the work. Get better.
Send us an email of any feedback, any topics. We are always so very open-minded to what do you want to recover from? What are the topics that you struggle with? And we are always open-minded to hear what you want help with. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And we hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.